Welcome, everyone, to the Leap into Live Streaming Summit from Ecamm. My name is Christian Karasevich. I'm the CEO and founder of socialchefs.com. I'm also the host of Social Chatter, the industry's longest running social media marketing talk show. And I also have a podcast on live video called Launch Your Live, where we walk you through how to be more confident on camera, how to pick the right equipment for your live video production, as well as how to do things such as pick the right backdrop, repurpose your live video show, and much, much, much more. But today, I am very, very, very excited. We're going to be talking about Easil, and the way we're going to talk about this is how you can go about building high quality graphics for your live video show, but without actually being a graphic designer. I know some people, they are very good at certain things, but graphic design might not be their thing, and they want to use live video, and they should. So today we're going to talk about how you can combine Easil with Ecamm to produce an amazing looking live video show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the Easil platform. By the way, if you don't have Easil, you can get it at launchyour.live/go/EASIL. Basically, there are three options. There's a free version that's going to obviously cost you nothing. There's a plus version that's $75, and there's an edge version that's $600, and that's all per year. The big difference is if you get with the plus or the edge versions, the plus is going to give you, for example, you're going to get the ability to remove the background on images. So for example, I got this background behind me. Say you want to cut that out. You could easily do that with just a couple of clicks. You don't have to be a designer to do that. Now, in addition to that, the edge version adds on the Teams functionality and so forth. So that is Easil. So hopefully you've had a chance to go and sign up for at least a free account to get started. That's launchyour.live/go/EASIL. And again, this is a web-based platform, so you are going to want to make sure you're doing this from the web. Graphic design just happens to work much better. Yes, you can do quick graphics on a mobile device, but always try to do things on a laptop or a much bigger screen when you can. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over to the Easil platform. And here I am. I've got the Easil platform, and what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through different things that I always tell people when they're building graphics for live video shows. So here we are in the Easil dashboard. So the first area I always want to tell people to focus on is this branding section. Now, this branding section is where you can go and you can add your colors, your fonts, any images, or any logos that you want to have available to yourself, or if you have a team as well utilizing Easil. So for example, what we're going to do for this exercise is we're going to go in, we're going to customize some things. So I'm not going to stick with my Social Chefs colors. I'm going to pick some other ones. So we're going to go with this blue option. I'm going to also then go in and I'm going to add some additional colors. So let's see, I want to do an orange. Let's go with this. Okay, so I like those colors. By the way, if you do happen to know the hex values of your colors you want to use or the RGB options, you can manually enter those. And you can also pick from the sliders on the left or the right as well. So we've got our colors added to Easil. Okay, so the next thing is we want to focus on. So if there's any images we want to upload specific to our brand, we want to have those there. For example, if there's certain graphics, maybe you have certain graphics of the CEO, or maybe you've got certain images you want to use for your social media profiles, things like that you always want to have on some of those screens. You want to put them up here. Okay, so now in addition to this, we're going to go to the font section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some fonts into the Easil design space. So for example, I've got a couple that I want to use, and these are, by the way, all built into the Easil platform. So I'm going to go with this one. This is the Barlow Condensed Extra Bold. You don't have to use this one, but keep in mind, by the way, when you do add your font, you also get to see what it's going to look like here at the top. Okay, so we're going to add that one. Now, we're going to be making some lower thirds today, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some additional ones, and we're going to rename this one called Lower Third, and we're going to use the same style font, and we're going to pick a light version of this. So we're going to go with the, let's see what that one looks like. That's light. Let's see what the condensed version looks like. I think I like the light version better. So we're going to stick with that. Okay. Now keep in mind, by the way, if you do happen to own some fonts or you've purchased a license for them, you can upload them here at the bottom of the font screen. Now, remember, just because you buy a font does not mean that you can use it for business purposes or a commercial license. You do have to make sure you read the terms and conditions of the font that you purchase to make sure you're allowed to use it. Okay, so we've got colors, we've got fonts, we've got some images. If we happen to have any logos we want to have available, we can put that here as well. So for now, I've already got my logos added, but if you need to add them, you can add them here by simply clicking the plus sign. Now, lastly, on the brand kit section is this brand settings option, and you can use this to hide Easil templates if there's certain designs you want people to use as opposed to accessing the Easil templates. And by the way, you get, I think, 2,500 templates available with the free plan. You get, I think it's 7,500 with the plus plan. You get 15,000 for the edge plan. And by the way, those templates are important, and they're important because, as you do more live videos or you do more design for yourself or other companies, you want to make sure that your designs stand out. And that's key because, for example, if you use other players in the market, I can tell you right now, I can spot some of their designs a mile away. So we've added the brands. Okay. Now, before we actually get into doing the designs, I've got a couple of things that I also want us to do. So the next thing is I want us to go to the folder section. Now, the folder section is where you can basically take your designs and put them into an easy, organized way for you to get to them. So for example, we're going to call this My Awesome Project. Okay. So right now, there's not going to be anything in this, obviously, if we select it from the dropdown. But I will say I did go in and, while there's only a handful of images here right now, if I ever want to go find these, I have to know what names to put them in. But I can go into the folder section and quickly jump to those images if I need to. Okay, so I'm back in my workspace. So we've added a folder. Now the next thing I want to make sure we cover are the images section. So the feature I told you about earlier, the ability to remove a background. Now you can do this with the plus and the edge versions of Easil. However, if you have the free version, obviously you don't have that option. So I want to show you how this works. And this is a big time saver. I mean, it's well worth, honestly, if you even paid the annual plan, it's worth the $75 alone. If you need to remove the background from an image, I'm going to show you two images. So we always upload our images to the images section. And then I'm going to open this image so you can see it. So for example, this is the image and I want to remove this background. So I'm not going to hire a designer. I'm going to do it myself. So what we're going to do in here is we're simply going to go back to the image. We're going to click this little chevron icon and we're going to say remove background. Now, as you can see, I have a couple of credits here as well. And I'm just going to click remove background and we're going to see what happens. Okay, so there's my new image. As you can see, you have the original and the new one. And here's what happens. It removed the background. It looks beautiful. So that one is ready to go for production. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to prepare this other image. Now, I always tell people you want to prepare your images ahead of time. You want to get all of your images in there and you want to remove the backgrounds and do all the other stuff up front before you start building, because here's what's going to happen. Sometimes people will start on a design and then they'll need to remove the background on an image and then they have to go find that. And that can be, a very time consuming process. Maybe, for example, in this case, this is a hard image. I need to remove the wall. I might need to remove part of the desk. So let's see what happens. This is the original. We're going to go into Easil. We're going to, again, click the drop down and we're going to remove the background. And keep in mind, by the way, this works for nearly all images, but you want to make sure that you have good contrast between the foreground and the background. So let's see what this photo of Annette looks like. Okay, so here we go. We have all of the chair cut out. We have some additional items as well. So one thing to keep in mind, by the way, depending on how you're going to use this graphic, in this case, looks like a spot that was removed. Maybe we don't need that and we only want the square of Annette. So we have an image that we can work with. Okay, so we've got our images all ready to go. We've got our brand colors defined. We've got a folder structure set up. So what we're going to do now is I want to pop into the template section. And I'm not going to use one of the templates that's available here. What we're going to do is work from one that I've already created. However, if you do need to create an overlay for your live video, I would recommend going to the digital screens option. There's a 1920 by 1080 design. This is the best thing to use because, again, you want to be designing it full screen. And then for lower thirds, same thing. You want to design big. You can always scale them down. So what we're going to do is, instead of going to the custom form, we're going to actually go to the team section because I already have the design right here that I want to show you how to work with. Okay, so I built this entire design here in Easil. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through how this entire thing works. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these different parts and kind of walk you through the interface of the Easil platform. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I've done 230 something episodes of my show, Social Chatter. And I didn't just start out with great looking designs. Instead, what I did was I went from a good, a better, and a best setup. So for example, maybe at the beginning, I started with, a standard graphic that was available via the live streaming platform I used. I then went to, improve it a little bit. And then I got into doing a professional graphic. So I'll show you what those look like here at the end. But what I want to do right now is I want to work with all these graphics. And what I always tell people when they're making graphics is this. I tell them, you need to make a couple of different ones. You need to make an intro graphic. We need to make a countdown timer. So maybe you want to start your live stream earlier. And then you need to make a lower third for you and a guest. And then we need to make a welcome screen. Okay, so all of these have been already built, but I'm going to walk you through how we go about customizing them, changing them, making them look good. Okay, so before we do that, what's really important to note is this whole area on the right-hand side. Now, the area we're going to be mostly concerned with are the layers. However, if you do get to the point where you want to add an image in, for example, maybe we want to replace this woman, we're going to go to the Images tab. If we want to change the social media graphics, we're going to change that under the Graphics tab. Now, an important point about graphics. So, for example, if we want to change this to a different logo, for example, maybe YouTube or Instagram, the graphics here are vector graphics, meaning you can scale them up infinitely and they will still look their best. So let's get ready to customize these graphics. Okay, so the first one I want to work with is this intro image. So a couple things to note here. So basically, everything is contained in the Layers tab. So every page that you have in here, in this middle area, is a page here on the right. And you can go in, you can turn certain things on, certain things off. You can quickly locate things. So for example, if I want to find all this text, I could just click the text area. If I want to remove it, I could just click the text option and hide it. So for this example, what we're going to do is we're going to go in here, we're going to change the design of all of this, and then we're going to show you how to import it into Ecamm. Okay, so what we've done, basically just double clicked on the text that's here. And so we're going to title this something else. So okay, so we've got our text, 5 ways to build Instagram engagement. Looks good. Okay, so I'm not Tammy, obviously. So we're going to put my name in there. Okay, and then next thing we want to do is, okay, so let's say we want to change the date. So let's say this is going to be April 29th. Okay, so we basically just click into the areas that we want to change. And we put in our new text. And then, for example, let's say the time is right. By the way, I would always recommend making sure if you're going to enlist out 2 different time zones, make sure you have the right time zones. And then lastly, let's say we want to change this graphic. We don't want a Facebook graphic. We want to make this YouTube graphic. So I'm going to go into the Graphics tab on the right. I'm going to search for YouTube. And now I get this graphic. Now I can bring this in a couple different ways. I can either click it or I can just drag it in. Now in this case, I'm just going to click it. And as you can see, it's not the color I want. So to change that, what we do is we go to the top corner here and we can actually change this now to whatever color. So let's make it white so that it matches. We're going to click into the corner. We're just going to drag to scale it down. By the way, you can hold the shift key often to constrain the proportions as well to make sure that it looks right. So we're going to just drag it over here. And as you can see, you get these nice grids to help you quickly align your graphics or your images or your text. So that looks good to me. Okay. So now the other thing I want to make sure we do here is, this is also not me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Images tab. Now you remember those images where we removed my background and we had that original image we uploaded. I want to show you how this works. So I can simply drag someone's photo in. So let's just drag Annette in. And as you can see, it drops her in, and as you can see, it cut out the background. So it doesn't necessarily look exactly how we want it. And obviously her head got cut off a little bit. Fortunately, we can actually double click on the image if we need to, and we can expand it or we can contract it as well if we want to. Now, as you can see, I dragged the wrong image in because I'm the one giving the presentation. So let's swap that out. So if I want to undo that, I'm just going to hit Command Z on my Mac. And now I'm going to go back to my image. Now, I'm not going to put the transparent one image in here because as you can see, if I just drag it into that box, it's a drop zone. It cuts out that nice background that we had. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to actually just drag this other one in. And by the way, you want to make sure you drag this in instead of clicking it, because if you click the image, it puts it into the project, but it doesn't crop the image correctly. So there we go. We've got my image. Now, the last thing I want to make sure I do is I want to change the background. I'm going to leave these other colors. I like the blue and I like the yellow and I like the white, but I want to see what this background looks like. So I'm going to just click the background, and then the top left, as you can see, it triggers the color box. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change this. So I got some options here. Let's see what it looks like with black. Okay, so there's black. And then let's see what it looks like. Let's see, let's go with like a gray. So I personally, I don't like the gray. I'm going to go back to black. Okay, so intro graphic done. What have we been on here for? A couple minutes? Okay, so let's move to the next one. So the next one might look very similar to the first one. However, it says starting, and this is our countdown timer that we're going to build. So for this, very simple. All we need to do is we can either double click the text that's in here, and we can go into the second graphic, and I'm going to double click in that box, and I'm just going to do Command C and then Command V, and I'm going to paste that text. Now, let's say I really don't like this text. I want to change it up. I can now highlight all of that text. And if I go to the top left corner here, remember how I added my brand kit earlier? So if I click on the dropdown, it's going to actually bring up my brand fonts that I picked. And I can choose from any other public fonts that I have available. Now, in this case, I'm just going to put this heading in here. You know, I kind of like that. I think it looks pretty good. But I want to make this text a little bit bigger. So let's put it at, we can double click in there. We can type like 90, for example. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We're going to do a little bit of an adjustment here. We're going to drag this. And as you can see, it aligns nicely. And then what we're going to do also is I want to make sure this is a little bit better. So I'm going to enter there. I'm going to say 5 ways to build Instagram engagement. Looks fantastic. So now let's go and let's change the background. We're going to change that to black. We've changed the font, as you can see, and I just need to drop my photo in. Now, the great thing is because this is a drop zone, I can just drop the photo right in, and it looks exactly how I want it to. Now, if I did want to go in and make some adjustments, I can double click on the image. As you can see, this image has some depth to the, it's not cropped right onto my head. So I can go about making some adjustments as well if I want to drag myself. For example, I want to drag myself up in the graphic if I want to. But for now, looks good. So I'm going to click to go, I'm going to hit cancel here at the cropping section. And now I have my graphic. Okay, so we're not going to worry about putting in the timer yet. We're going to do that within Ecamm. Now, the next section that's really important also to cover are the lower thirds. Now, don't forget, it's great to have a lower third for yourself, but we want to make sure that we also have one for our guest. Because again, it's all about the guest. It's not about you. So we're going to hit the copy option. What that's going to do is it's going to create a duplicate of the lower third. So for example, we're going to rename this one. In this case, I'm the host, so I'm going to just put my name. Okay, so let's see how that appears. And then now we're going to put host. And if you have any hashtags, for example, those are great to put in there as well if you have a branded hashtag. Every business should try to have their own hashtag. They don't necessarily, if somebody's already taken it, come up with something else. There's plenty. So we're going to put my name in there. And then we want to make sure, let's change my Twitter handle. And by the way, always make sure you double check these to make sure they look correct, because what you show on screen, you're telling your audience, hey, I want you to go and I want you to, connect with me. And so if your social media handles are not spelled correctly, for example, there's a spelling mistake or something, make sure you fix that. Okay, so we've got my host lower third done. Now let's go in and let's change this one as well. Okay, so let's use this one. Let's change this one to, okay, so let's make our text to edit update there. And then I'm going to show you how to quickly change the color as well. Okay, so we're going to put that. Now, as you can see, it doesn't look very good if you have just that one line of text. So we can go and we can add some additional items as well if we want to make this stand out. So let's put it in there as well. I'm going to put down Net McDonald. We're going to put down Easil, and then let's put their hashtag, let's put their Twitter handle into this as well. By the way, one thing I like to do, if you happen to have, two words that are combined and they're both, two words, I would recommend always trying to capitalize those words so that they look good, they stand out, they're a little bit easier to follow. Okay, so we've got our host graphic done, our lower third. We've got our guest lower third. Now, as I mentioned, you can also go in and you can pick some other things as well if you want to bring something in. For example, let's just click through what's here. Okay, so we can look under the assets folder if we've got anything there. If we want some graphics, we could put a graphic in there as well. Let's see if we can find something. So maybe we want to put, let's see if there's a pencil. Okay, so we've got a pencil. Let's say we want to put a pencil in here into Annette's graphic. So I'm going to actually add that in here as well. Okay, so there's our graphic. And the great thing is we can actually go and we can resize this however we want. And again, we want to change the color as well. So we got the graphic. Let's just drop it in here. Okay, so we've got that graphic. It's a black graphic. We want to make sure it stands out. So let's go with maybe, as you can see here, by the way, we can pick from the brand colors we've chosen, or we can pull the colors from the images, or we can pull template colors. So it'll actually look across all of the templates that are there. Okay, so we've added that. We've been able to pull in our brand colors. And then now let's get to that last screen. This last screen is the outro screen. And I always tell people, you want to make sure that it's easy for people to read these. So for example, and by the way, the reason I use an outro screen as well is because sometimes when you're running a live video, what will happen at the end is it might freeze. And then you'll end up with, like if you're trying to stop it, it freezes. And then, all of a sudden you're up on camera. Okay, so if you're up on camera, it's awkward, right? So what I typically like to do is I always get to the end. I hit the end slide button. For example, I play an outro video and then I pull up my end screen. And then that way it's easy. I don't have to worry about, I'm still on camera and so forth. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to add our graphics here. We're going to add our text for our end screen graphics. And by the way, you can also, if you decide you want to copy the format of the top text, we can always just highlight that. I'm going to click into this one. And I'm going to add my second one. Let's say we're on Twitter. And then let's add the YouTube one as well. Okay, so hopefully you're following along still with me. Okay, so now we're at the outro screen here. And by the way, you're not just limited to creating an intro and a countdown timer and some lower thirds and a watch, an end screen actually. You can also create a background, for example. So some platforms, they'll have it where your video screens will come up. You create a 1920 by 1080p background. For example, actually, we could actually do that. Let's do one. Let's do one more. So I've got all this. Let me make one more edit. Actually, make a couple of edits to this. So we're going to change the font real quick to this. We're going to click on that, and we're going to change this to that lower third font that we picked earlier. Okay, so I like that, but let's say I want to make it a little bit bigger. Change that to 70. Okay, so I like that. Now let's say we want to make the background. Again, we're going to change it from blue to black. Looks good. I like these lower third graphics. They still kind of go along with it, but let's change this to black. So we're going to select this one. And then let's do this other one. This is the host graphic. Again, you're literally just clicking into the box. You're layering graphics on top of one another to make these look beautiful. And then let's get to this last one. So let's say we want to make one more screen. We want to make a background. And so like, let's use this one. We're going to use the copy feature. It's going to make an extra version of this. And then what I'm going to do to make this easier is I'm not just going to click around to these. I'm going to actually go to the layers option. And the 5 is where the one we're on that we want to change. So I'm going to click social icons. We're going to hide those. Then I'm also going to click on the text option as well and hide that as well. So let's start with one. So there's the text. There goes the social icons. And now we have a background that we can work with. Okay. So now that you have all of these beautiful graphics designed, here's what we're going to do. We need to export these and bring them into Ecamm. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top here on the right. We're going to download these. And now, once we've downloaded these, it's going to give us some options. So we've got JPEG, PNG, and animated GIF. What we're going to do, because we have some transparency, meaning the lower third, it needs to appear over top of us in video, is we're going to click on the PNG option. We want all of the images that are here. So we can go and say, okay, I only want 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. But we're going to say done, and we're going to hit the download button. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to pop up a dialog box for me to be able to download these. So I'm going to come back on screen while these finish. And then what we're going to do once this is finished, by the way, they do have to prepare all of the images. We're going to put them on our desktop, and then we're going to bring them into Ecamm. Okay, so I'm going to put these into my desktop. And by the way, when you do download all of these images, they are going to download as a zip file. So keep that in mind. You may have to go in and you may have to go about unzipping that folder. So they're all in an Ecamm folder. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to the Ecamm platform. Okay, so here I am. I'm in Easil, and we're going to switch over to Ecamm. Now, what I want to do here is, let's see, so I'm going to bring up some screens in the Ecamm platform. So the first one that is really important is the scenes screen. Okay, so this is the scenes screen within Ecamm. Now, this is an important area because basically this is where all of your graphics are going to get organized. So what I always like to do here, for example, we're going to call this, I'm going to call this, I create a top folder. I'm going to call it maybe, so we're going to call this, let's make sure we do a folder first. Okay. So we're going to make a folder. By the way, this is one of the graphics that you can easily design out of the box, but we're going to call this my amazing designs. Okay. So here I am within Ecamm. I'm in the scenes section. Okay, so I'm in the scenes section. I've made a folder. We've called it my amazing designs. So I'm going to put that here at the top. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some different scenes. And the reason I do it like this is because you'll see they assign a keyboard shortcut next to them. So we're going to call this we're going to start with the intro graphic. And so I'm going to bring up the scene. And then the next thing I'm going to also do within Ecamm is I'm going to go and say, show the overlays window under the overlays menu. And then what's going to happen here is I'm very simply just going to drag the graphic from my desktop into the scenes, into the overlays panel. And there's a section that says show on all screens or show on just the current scene. So in this case, I've got this graphic pulled up. Okay. So let me get back to my camera. Okay, so here I am. Sorry about that. So I now have within Ecamm, I'm going to show you how I do all this. Okay, so there's the Easil application. We're going to go into Ecamm. I'm going to show you the scenes. Okay, so here's the scenes that we have. So we've got the intro up here. And then in addition to this, there's also another section called overlays within Ecamm. So now when you turn the overlays feature on, that's going to give you this sort of thing. As you can see, basically the way this works is I can take this graphic and I can say, okay, on every scene that I create, this graphic could appear. But what I like to do is I like to put it under show. I put it under show in current scene. And the reason I do that is so I can turn it on and off and I can control it via keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so let's go back up to the Ecamm scenes section. Okay, so as you can see, there's the intro that we created. I'm going to also not duplicate this. So I'm going to click on the scene that I have. I'm going to hit Command D and I'm going to duplicate it. And we're going to call this one countdown timer. And we're going to do that one as well. So when I do that, basically what happens is I go into my overlays box. Let me switch back to that for you. So I have the overlays here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that countdown graphic I made earlier, and we're going to very simply just drag it, see how we put it above the other one, into there. Now I'm going to turn off, make sure the other graphic is turned off. Okay, so how do we go about making this countdown timer work? Because right now there's just a whole bunch of text. So the way that this works is this. So I can now go in Ecamm and in the overlay section, I'm going to actually switch back to that for you. So if I'm in here, I'm in Ecamm and I'm in the overlay section, I can click on the bottom left corner. By the way, let me move my window out of the way. Okay, so all these icons in the bottom left. So I can now click on this and I can say, okay, we're going to add a 5-minute countdown timer. We can style it however we want. We can add drop shadow to it. You'll see a minor difference there. We can change the background color, but we're going to hit add. Now, okay, great. It's on screen. So how's this going to look within Ecamm? So I'm going to go back into Ecamm. I'm going to go into the graphic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the timer. That's Command 2. We're going to put that up. And then we're going to make sure that that graphic is visible. Okay, so here's that. So we've got the graphic. Now we drop our timer on top. And then we can actually go about moving that around. Or if we want to, we can drag in the corner and resize it if we need to. So again, you've got a nice countdown timer ready to go. And when you start this, by the way, when you switch between scenes and whatnot, it will start over at the minutes that you want to that you've set it to. So like if I ever want to go edit and maybe make it 10 minutes, we can go in there and say, okay, let's make it 10 minutes and hit save. And then it becomes 10 minutes. So very easy. Just do it once and it now stays within your Ecamm platform. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Now I'm going to switch back to the scenes layer. And then what I want to do here is I want to actually now show you very quickly how we go about finishing up the rest of these scenes. So we've got an intro, we've got a countdown timer. I'm going to take the intro, I'm going to duplicate it. Again, Command D, I'm going to hide these so these are easier for you to see. So we're going to name it outro. We're going to then go to the overlays area. And we're going to incorporate that overlay into that scene. Okay, let me make sure I got the right one. I got the wrong one, actually. I grabbed the other one we did. Okay, so let me finish grabbing these graphics real quick. Okay, so we've got that. We're going to also then go in, we're going to add the lower thirds, same exact process. So I'm going to call this lower third. Host. And then I'm going to also make one for a lower third guest. And again, same exact process. I'm going to find my graphic that I've created. I'm going to put it into the overlay section, but I'm going to put it in the section that says show in current scene. Hopefully you can see this now on screen. Okay. Okay, so I'll bring my camera back up here in a second to show you what this looks like, but let me finish these real quick. Okay, so there you go. You've got the other one that we just created. Okay, so there we go. We've got that. So now while I'm at it, let me see if I can bring my... So there's what our graphic would look like if we had a lower third designed here. Now, as you can see, I'm wearing a navy blue sport jacket. It does kind of clash with the black on the graphic. I may want to maybe change up what I'm wearing or so forth, you know, something to make it a little bit, you know, where it contrasts a little bit better. Okay, so we got that graphic, and then let me see if we have any more that we want to work with. Oh yeah, and the last one we have is we have the thanks for watching graphics, so the end graphics. So I'm going to go ahead and add that one as well. Again, very simple, all controlled by keyboard shortcuts, which is pretty cool. And so then, now that we have that, so there's the thanks for watching one. The other thing that I want to make sure I point out is that everything can be controlled by keyboard shortcuts. So we could do something such as this. So let's see. So for example, we can pull up our first scene. In this case, I'm going to actually turn that one off. Okay, so there's our first scene. So there's our intro. We could then go into our countdown timer. And our countdown timer, we just need to make sure we turn those on in the overlays. So there we go. There's our countdown timer. You know, we have our background if we want to bring that up. We can pull up our lower third as well. By the way, you may have to go in and hide some of these. So pull up my camera. Let's see if I got the right one. So there's the countdown timer. Okay, so let me pull in the lower third graphic real quick. Okay, so there's the lower third. So that's for me. And then obviously we have a guest. We can bring on the guest as well. Again, all of these are controlled via a very simple keyboard shortcut. So like Command 1, Command 2, Command 3, Command 4, Command 5, and so forth. So it's very easy for you to go about changing this. And then we can wrap it up with our final graphic, which would be our thank you graphic. Again, with our social media channels and all that sort of stuff that you want to have there. But as you can see, it's very easy to go about creating overlays for your live video show and then incorporating them very easily within Ecamm. So utilizing Easil plus Ecamm. Now there's one last feature, by the way, I do want to show you all within the Easil platform. And this is for those of you who want to go about repurposing some of their video content. So let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. Okay, so here I am. I'm still within the Ecamm platform, but let me switch over to Easil real quick for you. I'm going to show you one last feature, and then we're going to wrap things up. So here are all the designs and whatnot that we made here in the last 30 to 45 minutes within Easil. Now, there's another feature that is very useful for those of you who want to recycle your graphics, or maybe, let me rephrase that. Maybe you don't want to recycle them. Maybe you want to use them in a different format. And so instead of having to rebuild these from scratch, you can go up to the resize option, go to the copy and resize option. And then what that's going to do is we're going to select, like, let's say we want to make something for Instagram stories or Facebook stories. So we're going to go down to the story feature. As you know, remember, we started out in 1920 by 1080, so in a rectangle, but we want to go into a vertical rectangle, not a horizontal one. So basically what you're going to see here is the screen will rotate. Now, how do we go about fixing all of these graphics? So the easiest way is to go over to that layers palette. And what I like to do is, since I only need one graphic here, I'm going to delete all this extra stuff. So I'm going to go in here and we're going to delete this one. And then we're going to delete the next one because I don't need a lower third necessarily for a vertical video unless I'm doing, a story or something like that where I want that over top my video. But I'm going to get rid of that one. We're going to get rid of the next one. We're going to get rid of that background screen that we have. As you can see on the right, the layers are changing. And then we're going to get rid of that last thanks for watching screen. So we're going to just work with this one that's right here. Okay. So the great thing is now if I want to, for example, take all this text and I want to resize it, I could easily now just select the entire layer and drag, and now quickly reposition that graphic. Remember, if you deselect the item on the right, or you click out of it, it won't move everything together as a group. So in this case, we're going to do something like this. We're going to do okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to incorporate our live icon that we wanted on there. Now let's say we want to take some of these graphics. So let's figure out which ones we have. So we've got the dot circle. That's the one on the right. I can actually increase this very quickly. Just drag it around my graphic. As you can see, it basically crops the item so that you only have that side. I have the image as well, so if I want to make this any bigger, I can hold the shift key, drag the corner. And very simply now, drop this into this corner here. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. So by the way, if you do also want to move things up, you can hold the shift key and the arrows and actually go about moving your graphic up. So as you can see, I think that looks pretty good, actually. Let's move it up a little bit more. Let's move it down. Okay. So now we have just quickly resized our graphic for Instagram stories. So as you can see, I mean, it's a very, very, very robust platform to utilize for your for any of your graphics, whether it's your live video graphics or whether it's for just repurposing your graphics to tell people, hey, I have this live video program. So that's pretty much it on how to go about using Easil with Ecamm to build professional looking graphics. A couple of things I also want to just mention real quick, by the way, as far as Easil goes, is that, here's some of the graphics, for example, that they actually did for me. So I've got this one, for example, this is for my show. And I've got a segment graphic that I had them create, as well as a very nice outro and obviously some different lower thirds. So like, for example, such as this one. The last thing I want to mention, by the way, is for those of you who are interested in utilizing Easil for your graphics, I was able to work out a nice little package with them. For those of you who sign up for an annual subscription to Easil, they will give you, in addition to obviously the year of Easil, if you're one of the first 10 people, they'll actually give you a professional graphics package. So obviously, as you see the ones that I have here. So you get that one very simply by going to launchyour.live/go/EASIL. And if you go there, basically that will take you to the page. And again, that's at launchyour.live/go/Easil. But I want to thank you for spending some time with me. This has been an absolute pleasure. I hope you've learned a lot about how to leverage Easil to help you build professional quality graphics. Again, I mean, we were here for what, like 45 minutes maybe? Let me see. A little over 45 minutes. But again, we created an intro graphic, a countdown timer, and a lower third for a host, a lower third for a guest, a background, as well as an outro graphic. And we even showed you how to resize your designs for other platforms as well. But I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions about any of this, again, feel free to connect with me at Social Chefs. That's my company. But thanks a lot for spending the better part of the afternoon with me. So I'll see you all later. Thanks a lot.